Fire Chief Marcus Hale stood at the edge of the driveway, gazing up at the modest two-story house in Rosewood Glen. The moving van pulled away slowly, leaving behind stacks of boxes and the bittersweet scent of fresh paint. It wasn't the biggest house they'd ever lived in, or the fanciest, but it was quiet, safe. And that was all he wanted now, for Ellie. 8-year-old Ellie Hale sat in her wheelchair beside him, a bright pink scarf wrapped around the plastic tubing that delivered oxygen from the small tank nestled behind her. Despite everything, she smiled, her eyes wide with wonder as she looked at the neatly trimmed lawns and pastel homes around them. She pointed at a bluebird fluttering across their newly planted hydrangeas. Marcus smiled back, brushing a loose curl from her forehead. "Looks like someone's ready to make friends," he said, wheeling her toward the front door. A year ago, their world had changed forever. A faulty space heater, a flash fire, and then everything. Ellie's bedroom, the family dog, even Marcus's wife, gone in minutes. Ellie had survived, but not without scars. The inhalation damage had weakened her lungs permanently. Since then, oxygen therapy and rehabilitation had become part of their daily life. They moved to Rosewood Glen for a fresh start. The neighborhood brochure boasted quiet streets, accessible sidewalks, and a community that cares. But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something in the air was off. As they crossed the porch, a silver-haired woman in a perfectly pressed pantsuit stood at the edge of their lawn, arms folded, clipboard in hand. Her eyes narrowed as she took in the wheelchair ramp and the portable tank. Marcus offered a polite nod. The woman did not return it. She simply turned and walked away. The morning sun filtered through the sliding glass doors as Marcus connected the final piece of tubing from Ellie's oxygen tank to the discreet extension he'd run along the patio railing. It wasn't much. Just a medical-grade hose, secured and labeled properly, giving Ellie the freedom to enjoy the garden without dragging her tank behind her. She loved the outdoors. Lately, she'd taken to decorating the tank with stickers, stars, puppies, even a hand-drawn sunflower that reminded her of her mum. Marcus watched her now, seated comfortably on a blanket near the roses, blowing bubbles with a quiet giggle as the oxygen line hissed gently beside her. The moment didn't last. A loud knock sounded at the front door, sharp and deliberate. Marcus wiped his hands and opened it to find the same silver-haired woman from the day they moved in. Marla Whitmore. Her pressed blouse didn't have a wrinkle, and the ever-present clipboard looked more like a badge of power than paper. "I'm here regarding a violation," she said, already reaching into a folder. "Excuse me. The tubing on your patio." She held out a slip of paper, bright orange and stamped with Notice of Non-Compliance. "External modifications must be pre-approved. This violates HOA Code 17A. "It's medical," Marcus said, trying to remain calm. "My daughter needs oxygen. This lets her enjoy the outdoors safely." Marla didn't blink. "Medical needs don't exempt you from community guidelines. She's 8. She's disabled. You're really telling me a few feet of tubing is a problem?" "Rules are rules, Mr. Hale. If we let one person ignore them, the whole neighborhood suffers." She turned on her heel and strode down the path. Marcus stood frozen in the doorway, the notice trembling in his hand, while Ellie waved at the departing figure, unaware of what had just been set in motion. The call came in just after lunch, a fast-moving brush fire on the outskirts of town. Marcus grabbed his gear and kissed Ellie's forehead gently. "I'll be back before dinner," he promised, adjusting her oxygen flow and checking the monitors twice before locking up. She gave him a thumbs up, then returned to coloring in her sketch pad on the patio, sunlight warming her legs, the hose coiled safely beside her. By late afternoon, the neighborhood was quiet except for the distant buzz of hedge trimmers. No one saw Marla Whitmore slip through the side gate, clipboard under one arm, maintenance worker trailing behind her with a toolbox. She surveyed the patio like a general inspecting a battlefield. Her lips curled in distaste at the sight of the hose, neatly fastened along the railing. "That's the one," she said, pointing. "It needs to go." The young maintenance man hesitated. "It looks like medical equipment." Marla's voice dropped into a sharper register. "It's a tripping hazard, and not pre-approved. The board voted this morning. Removal is mandatory." On the patio, Ellie looked up from her drawing, startled to see strangers on her lawn. She reached for her communication tablet, tapping the alert button rapidly, eyes wide with confusion. When the worker approached the hose, she tried to speak, but the words came out weak and gasping. "I really don't feel right about this," the man murmured, fingers brushing the connection. Marla snapped, "She's being dramatic. Just unhook it. She can go inside." With one quick motion, the line was detached. The effect was immediate. Ellie's eyes fluttered. Her mouth opened in a silent scream as she collapsed backward onto the grass, her limbs jerking, lips turning pale. Marla stepped back, startled. "Oh, she wasn't faking?" Jasmine Patel had been lying on her bed across the street, earbuds in, scrolling through videos, when something caught her eye. Through her bedroom window, she saw movement on the Hale patio. Two adults, one of them the scary HOA lady her mum warned her about, and little Ellie slumped on the ground. Something felt wrong. She pulled her earbuds out. There was no sound from the child, no crying, just a frightening stillness. Jasmine leaned closer and saw Ellie's chest barely rising. Without thinking, she grabbed her phone and dialed 911. "There's a little girl. She has medical equipment. She's collapsed outside. Please hurry," she told the dispatcher, eyes never leaving the scene. She watched Marla motion to the maintenance guy to leave, her voice clearly panicked now, but still trying to sound in control. She didn't even check on Ellie, just stepped back like she didn't want to be associated with the mess. The ambulance arrived within minutes, sirens splitting the calm air of Rosewood Glen. EMTs rushed onto the patio. One knelt beside Ellie, while another shouted back to the driver for a pediatric oxygen kit. The tube lay disconnected on the ground, coiled like a useless rope. Ellie's skin had taken on a greyish tint, and her pulse was faint. They lifted her onto a stretcher, placing an oxygen mask firmly over her face. One EMT asked, "Who was supervising the child?" Marla stood frozen, then pointed toward the house. "Her father left. I was trying to help." The ambulance doors slammed shut, and the vehicle sped toward Mercy General. Miles away, Marcus was cutting a firebreak through the forest when his radio crackled. A paramedic's voice came through, urgent and clipped. "Chief Hale, be advised. Your daughter has been transported to Mercy. Oxygen failure, possible hypoxia. She's stable, but unconscious." The fire line blurred. Marcus dropped everything. When he arrived at the hospital, still in his fire gear, ash on his face, the nurse behind the desk recognized him immediately. "She's in pediatric ICU, room 3. His boots echoed through the hallway as he ran. Through the glass window, he saw Ellie lying still in the hospital bed, machines surrounding her small frame, her favorite scarf folded on a nearby chair. A doctor stepped out to meet him. "She went without oxygen for several minutes," she said gently. "We stabilized her quickly, but we'll need to monitor for neurological damage." Marcus felt like the floor disappeared beneath him. Marcus sat beside Ellie's hospital bed, his calloused hands gently stroking her fingers, now pale and limp against the white sheets. The rhythmic beeping of the monitor echoed through the quiet room, a sound he'd come to dread. She hadn't woken yet. Her chest rose and fell under the oxygen mask, the hiss of airflow a fragile promise. He'd fought infernos, pulled bodies from wreckage, but nothing compared to this. Watching his daughter lie still, silent, powerless. A soft knock broke the silence. A woman in scrubs entered, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Hale, I'm Dr. Reynolds. I wanted to go over your daughter's condition." He rose slowly, his voice tight. "Will she be okay?" "She's stable now," the doctor said, keeping her tone measured. "But the oxygen deprivation lasted long enough that we're concerned about short-term memory loss, cognitive disruption, even motor control delays. We won't know the extent until she regains consciousness." Marcus looked away, jaw clenched. Someone did this to her. The doctor hesitated. "There's already a report. Paramedics flagged it. But there's a complication." She stepped aside, revealing a second woman, hospital administrator, sharp blazer, a practiced smile. "Mr. Hale, we've received a statement from a Ms. Marla Whitmore. She claims she was responding to a hazard and that your daughter was unsupervised. She's calling it an unfortunate accident." Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. She ripped medical tubing from a disabled child. "She also contacted her attorney," the administrator added. "And her husband, Councilman Whitmore, has expressed concern over potential slander. They're offering a settlement, medical coverage, financial compensation, but I have to stay quiet. Yes. Sign a non-disclosure. Drop the report." Marcus looked back at Ellie, her tiny frame overwhelmed by machines. He didn't respond, but the silence in the room spoke louder than any words. The hospital room felt colder the next morning. Marcus hadn't slept. He stayed in the stiff vinyl chair, watching Ellie's fingers twitch under the blanket, praying for any sign she'd wake. A nurse had changed her oxygen tubing and turned off one of the machines, but her eyes remained shut, her breathing shallow and mechanical. His phone buzzed. A text from his deputy chief. "Councilman Whitmore's been calling the mayor's office. They're leaning on the department. Be careful, Marcus." He stepped into the hallway, shoulders tight, just as the hospital administrator returned, this time with a man in a tailored suit and a smooth voice. "Mr. Hale, my name is Daniel Reyes. I represent the Whitmores. They're very sorry about what happened and would like to make things right. Complete medical coverage for Ellie, funds for therapy, a sizable settlement." Marcus didn't speak. Reyes continued. "All we ask in return is that you agree to resolve this matter privately. No press, no formal charges." Marcus stared at the flash drive the man slid across the table. "What happens when she does this to another child?" "That's not your concern anymore, Mr. Hale." He didn't pick up the drive. Instead, he returned to Ellie's side, brushing her hair off her forehead. Her eyes fluttered, but didn't open. Later that day, a knock came at the hospital room door. A nurse stepped in, hesitant. "There's a girl in the waiting area. Says she has something you need to see. Her name's Jasmine." The HOA meeting was already underway when Marcus entered the Rosewood Glen Community Hall, pushing Ellie's wheelchair carefully down the aisle. Conversations hushed. All eyes turned to the fire chief in uniform and the small, pale girl seated before him, wrapped in a blanket, her oxygen tank quietly humming behind her. Ellie looked fragile, but her eyes were alert, focused, determined. At the front of the room, Marla Whitmore stood beside her husband, Councilman Whitmore, lips tight behind a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She adjusted the microphone. "Before we continue with this month's landscaping compliance update, I'd like to address the unfortunate misunderstanding involving the Hale family. We're deeply saddened by recent events and hope for a speedy recovery for young Ellie." Murmurs of polite agreement floated through the room. Marcus didn't wait. "You nearly killed my daughter," he said, voice steady but full of heat. Marla's head snapped toward him. "Excuse me, sir, this is not the place." She was playing outside, attached to a medical oxygen line you didn't like the look of, So you ripped it out. She collapsed right in front of you. I was ensuring safety, Marla replied sharply. Children need supervision. That line was a violation. It could have harmed others. I'm a fire chief, Marcus said, wheeling Ellie forward. I know a hazard when I see one. That line wasn't one. You were. From the back, Jasmine stood with a laptop in her arms, hands shaking slightly. I have the footage, she said. From my window. I saw everything. Councilman Whitmore stepped forward. That's a minor. She has no right. Jasmine didn't flinch. My mum's here. She gave permission. The screen lit up. The room watched in silent disbelief as the video played. Ellie in the garden. Marla stepping forward, ordering the removal. Ellie collapsing. The workers hesitating. Marla's cold words. Just unhook it. She's faking. When it ended, no one said a word. Not at first. Then Ellie, who had remained quiet the entire meeting, reached for the microphone in Marcus's hand. She leaned forward. Her voice came, small but clear, trembling but true. You took my air. You said I didn't matter. Marla paled. Ellie blinked at her. But I do. A man in a dark suit at the back rose. Detective Connors, Ms. Whitmore, you're under arrest for reckless endangerment of a minor. Gasps echoed. As Marla was handcuffed, no one moved to stop it. But a slow, rising applause began as Ellie turned to her father and smiled. Spring melted into summer, and the quiet cul-de-sac of Rosewood Glen looked different now. Where sterile hedges once stood, bursts of colour bloomed. Chalk drawings on sidewalks, birdhouses painted by small hands, and wind chimes made of tin and ribbon. At the centre of it all was a new addition to the community. A garden playground, bordered with ramps and soft paths, shaded by canvas sails and surrounded by raised flower beds. A carved wooden sign welcomed all. Ellie's Haven. Ellie stood at its edge, braces locked to her legs, her walker decorated with the same sunflower stickers she once placed on her oxygen tank. Her voice, still quiet, came more easily now. She was leading a weekend art session. Small canvases, bright paints, and quiet encouragement. Try blue, she said to a boy with autism who had been hesitant to start. Like the sky after a storm. Marcus watched from a nearby bench, coffee in hand, pride swelling in his chest. The nightmare hadn't vanished. It still visited him in quiet hours, in dreams and long stares, but it no longer ruled them. A local reporter crouched beside Ellie as the children painted. Why do you like teaching art? Ellie paused, thoughtful. Because some kids don't have words. I didn't, for a long time. She dipped her brush and added a final detail to a mural forming on the fence. 2 hands, holding a blooming sunflower between them. Art helped me speak, she said, so I help it speak for others.